The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Lots to get to today. We've got a preseason game tonight, a big one, the dress rehearsal. This will be the last time we see any of the starters prior to the 2025 kickoff on September the 7th versus the New York Giants at home. So this is exciting. It's Monday Night Football, all the hoopla that comes with this stage. Aikman, Buck, Lisa Salters, the whole gang and the whole shebang. It should be a ton of fun. Not going to see every single starter. Not going to see one guy in particular that we're about to talk about here in a second that we talked about quite a bit yesterday. But there's so many things to get to from this game that I think we should be looking at as fans and looking for from this game as fans. We'll get to those things here in a second, but obviously we got to start with the elephant in the room, of course, and that is Brian Robinson Jr. So we got to talk. So there were some questions that I asked you guys yesterday, and I went digging and searching for some answers. I think I might have found some. I'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. Brian Robinson Jr. is not playing tonight, and that was something I wanted to see. There were two things that I was thinking about when talking about this. Last night, I said I thought he would play and play quite a bit because I thought in my mind that they were showcasing him to the rest of the team, saying, in the league, hey, come and get him. There's enough film out there and enough tape on Brian Robinson Jr. Either you're interested or you're not at this point. But if you have a potential suitor, then you don't play him tonight. If you're trying to actively shop him, then it makes sense to not play him tonight because you don't want him injured, obviously. It's the same thing that happens in the NBA. When a guy is potentially going to be traded, he's not playing in the game. Right? Because you don't want anything to happen to that guy to compromise a potential deal getting done. So I was hoping, this was me being selfish, that they hadn't found any suitors because they're not going to get anything for him. I still don't believe they're going to get anything for him. I think they're ultimately going to cut him. And I told you last night, I said, if this news gets out, then you have to be prepared to cut him. You can't put this information out there and then say, hey, we tried to trade you as best as we could, but we want you here. Of course, you could still do that, but it's an awkward situation. No one wants to be in a position where you don't feel wanted. So if you're going to allow that information out, then yes, you're probably prepared to cut him. And that's what we talked about last night. And I still think that's what's going to ultimately happen now that he's not playing tonight, because they've already mentally moved on from Brian Robinson Jr., whether you think it's right or wrong. I think it's a mistake because if you're not getting something for him, he's of more value to you on the roster than he is not on the roster. But I don't fault them for shopping him and seeing if they can get something. The problem is I don't think there was ever any value in Brian Robinson Jr. Now, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope somebody in the 23rd hour says, hey, I'll give you a 7th round pick. I'll give you a conditional 7th that can turn into a 6th. I would love it if someone would just give us something. But generally, how these situations go, you ain't getting a damn thing. A little bit more background information on Brian Robinson Jr. So this is from Warren Sharp. You know I'm a big Warren Sharp fan. Don't always agree with his opinions, but a lot of it is statistically based, and it's hard to argue with numbers. Sometimes you can cherry pick certain numbers to make your case and your argument, but ultimately numbers are what they are. There are certain numbers that I feel like, I don't believe them to be necessarily beneficial for the argument. Like I saw Al Galdi talking about, DVOA of yardage and things of that nature. And I just don't buy that, because guys like Chris Rodriguez got to come in the game against a Titans team that was at that point of the game mentally demoralized And this man almost had 100 yards in the fourth quarter of a game that was already decided. Like, when he came in against Atlanta, he had the one touchdown and the catch in overtime. He ain't do shit on the ground in that game, right? He's had games where he's played well. He's had games where it's just like, he's all right, but he's not real. So the numbers can get a bit misconstrued. These numbers, there's no misconstruing this when it comes to Brian Robinson Jr. Warren Sharp writes, despite facing the fifth easiest schedule of run defenses last season, Brian Robinson Jr. ranked 27th of 50 running backs in yards per carry, 4.3, which is not bad. Half of the league, I mean, he's right around top half of the league in that statistical category, which is what we think he is. Like, the lower tier of starting running backs. I believe he's a starting running back in this league, but he's on the lower end of the starting running back food chain, right? That sounds about right, somewhere in that neighborhood. Not that our offensive line did him any favors down the stretch, and he wasn't completely healthy, but that's nor here nor there. The next one is the one that I think most of us, including myself, have the biggest issue with and wanted to bring in reinforcements to correct this. 37th of 50 running backs in explosive run rate, 6.5%. That's the one that all of us, ding, 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 said, we got to upgrade explosive runs because you're not getting any from any of the backs that we currently have on the roster. That includes Austin Eckler and J-Mac. Even though J-Mac, when he came out of Boise, was a 4-3 guy, I believe. If not 4-4 for sure. But I think J-Mac was like a 4-3 and 4-4 something. But J-Mac ain't getting loose. J-Mac ain't outrunning nobody, right? Neither is Eck. B-Rob damn sure ain't outrunning nobody. There were no explosive runs to be had based off of the guys that we were bringing to the table. And B-Rob was the guy that was getting the most carries, so it really hurt our offense because you weren't getting any explosives through the run game. Not with Brian Robinson Jr. on the field. And that was the thing that we as fans struggled with. I love the fact that if you give it to Brian Robinson Jr. on a play that's blocked for 3 yards, he's probably going to get you 4 or 5. But what happens if a play's blocked for 8 yards? Can he turn it into a 48, 58, or 68-yard gain? The answer is no. We've seen that. We've seen that. Right? He was 35th of 50 running backs in stuff rate, meaning guys, 20% of the time he was getting tackled at or near the line of scrimmage. Again, that's partly due to the offensive line. They have to bear some of the brunt of that. But also, we've seen times where Brian Robinson Jr. ran up the back of his offensive lineman. The vision clearly wasn't there. I don't think, and this is the thing that a lot of people, including myself, and I've said this, I've made this point, but I don't think I've made it abundantly clear. I haven't made this point enough, but I've made it in the past, and you've heard me say this. I don't think we take into consideration the fit of this offense when talking about a guy like Brian Robinson Jr. I've said he is best suited for a power run game, a gap scheme, something where you're getting the football and you're getting north, up the field. This offense forces you to run laterally, forces you to press holes and stick your foot in the ground. That is not where Brian Robinson Jr. excels. He is not a guy that should be running laterally in parallel to the line of scrimmage, waiting patiently for a hole to develop so he can stick his foot in the ground and get up the field. He's a guy that wants to go downhill, right? Like Derrick Henry isn't a guy that is made to play in a outside zone type of offense, which is what our offense is. It's outside zone, inside zone, a lot of things that try to get you to the perimeter. That's not what Derrick Henry would be great at, right? Because and Derrick Henry could be if he needed to be, but Derrick Henry is a guy that gets up the field, power run scheme, right? Up the A gap, up the B gap. He can hurt you off tackle. He can hurt you in the C gap. He can hurt you on a toss. But where Derrick Henry does a lot of damage is right in that B gap, C gap, right? That's where he does a lot of damage. We asked Brian Robinson Jr., especially when he was struggling late in the season, hey, we need you to read this thing out. We need you to press, be patient, and then when a hole develops, cut back, stick your foot in the ground, get up the field. That's not his strong suit. Agility-wise, that's not where he excels. You're asking him to do something that requires vision, which he doesn't have at a great clip. And there are things that he's not made to do. And I think this offense requires him to have to be able to do those things. And it's just not a great fit when you think about it. You put him in a downhill scheme for teams like Cleveland and teams like Tennessee and Baltimore. I think he would excel in offenses where they get under center and they turn around and hand the football off, and it's a power gap scheme. Seattle, another place that I think he would be really suited to play. Here is not one of them, right? The offensive line didn't do him any favors last year either. But at the end of the day, I don't think this scheme does him any favors. He is not a great fit for this scheme. And so I remember I asked you guys, he's done. Okay, they're sitting him tonight. The writing's on the wall. The tea leaves are here for you to be able to look at, assess, and draw a conclusion, which is what we do here anyway. I was wrong in the sense of I still thought he would be here. Here's why I thought he would be here. Because I was hoping that them shopping him was them exploring an opportunity, but not necessarily saying we're done with him. If somebody's willing to give us something, we'll take it and we'll move on. But we still want Brian Robinson Jr. here. And if he would have played tonight, I feel like that would have been them trying to continue to show that he is a guy that if you're interested, you can have him, but he's going to be here, right? If he's out there with the first team offense, we still have plans for him. Him not playing tonight is a clear sign that either they're going to trade him or they're going to cut him. He's not going to be on this roster. So I asked a question last night. One of the biggest questions I asked was, why is Jordan Schultz getting this information? How is Jordan Schultz getting this information from an organization that is as tight-lipped as any in the league, that doesn't want anything out? It doesn't come out. How is he getting this information? And it didn't make sense to me because I said, this doesn't benefit and I told you guys this yesterday. This doesn't benefit the Commanders organization one bit to have this information divulged. This does not benefit them at any point, under any circumstances. This proved to be favorable for the Commanders, because if they were trying to do this quietly, discreetly, in the event that they wanted to keep Brian Robinson Jr., cat's out of the bag now. You can't put this toothpaste back in the tube. This is out there. He feels some type of way, and now you have to do something about it. I said, why is it that Terry McLaurin's information keeps finding its way to Jordan Schultz? I got my answer. Agents. Agents are at the forefront of everything we've seen transpire with this organization. There are a lot of agents, you've read the stories, that aren't very fond of our general manager, Adam Peters. Now, you're going to ruffle a few feathers when you're a tough, hard-nosed negotiator, as Adam Peters clearly is. You're going to ruffle some feathers. You've read the articles. There have been several articles that have been published over the last week and a half that have suggested he's a pretty hard ass when it comes to negotiation. And there are a lot of agents that don't necessarily love negotiating with Adam Peters. I don't mind it. I don't mind my general manager being tough in negotiations, because in his mind, what's fair is fair, right? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. There are certain instances where I wish there was a little bit more give and take. You know, he seems a bit rigid at certain points, but again, he does what he feels like is in the best interest of this organization, and I can't knock the hustle. But it all makes sense. We already acknowledged, we all said when Terry did the Eastern Automotives situation and had the media scrum, we said, that ain't even Terry, man. He don't even move like that. This shit feels orchestrated. Who does this? Who has a whole media, scrum press conference at a commercial shoot? Nobody does that. That was all agent driven. That was all Buddy Baker. We've already surmised that, though. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. We all felt like that was him in the moment. But here's the thing that a lot of us, probably weren't talking about. The national media was at that Eastern Automotive's scrum. We knew about it, right? As fans, we knew Terry was speaking with the media prior to this Eastern Automotive scrum. We knew a day or two in advance. Why is that? The Commanders didn't tell us. They didn't put that out there. Who did? Who called Jordan Schultz so he could show up on the scene? Buddy Baker did. You think the Commanders want this information about Brian Robinson Jr. being on the block made public information? You think that shines a favorable light on what they're trying to get accomplished? If they ever had an inkling that they may be able to shop him quietly, have it go away, no one was interested, and keep him on the roster, that died yesterday when Jordan Schultz put out the report that the Commanders are shopping running back Brian Robinson Jr. And look, they may have ultimately already had made a decision on him that if they couldn't trade him, they were going to cut him anyway. That might have already been in the works. But if there was ever a chance of them saying, if we can't shop him, we'll just hold on to him, he's worth more to us than anybody else, that went away yesterday when the report came out. Because now if I'm Brian Robinson Jr., I don't want to be here if you don't want me here. If you're trying to get rid of me, if you're actively looking to move me, then let me go. Don't hold me hostage. Who divulged that information? Agents did that. So you see the information is not coming from the organization. We see where the information is coming from. We see where the leaks are. We understand what's going on here. So it's us against the world. I just need y'all to understand that it's us against everybody else. MOBB, we all we got. Ain't nobody else on our side but us. They try to turn us against each other. They try to promote infighting. They want you to choose a side. It's Terry or it's the organization. Nah, we all one big family, bro. Everybody want to see us fail, including agents out here trying to sabotage our organization and our general manager, trying to cut us, undercut us before we even get our shit popping the way that we think it's about to be popping for the next decade plus. Remember, it's us against them. And when I say them, all 32 teams out there and all the agents that are out there. It's us against them. We got love for everybody that's in the building. We got love for everybody that's a part of this thing. But if you ain't a part of this thing, then we ain't got no love for you. You on the other side and stay on that side, including the damn agents. So just understand what's at work. Our organization, you know how these boys operate. You know how Adam Peters, Lance Newmark, Dan Quinn, and company operate. You know how they operate. Closed mouths don't get fed, and they mouths are closed. Media members ain't getting fed from our guys. And I know that's not how that expression goes, but literally, our mouths are closed. So the media members ain't getting fed information from our side. We essentially just got sabotaged just now by an agent. We just got by an agent. Because again, I don't know if the ultimate goal was to release Brian Robinson Jr. They definitely clearly were trying to shop him, which I endorse. Please do it. If you can get something for him, get something for him. But I was of the mindset that if you couldn't, you just keep him here. There have been many times where teams have tried to shop a player, they couldn't find a suitor, and they just held on to him. That's happened a ton of times, more than we ever will know. But in this day and age where everybody wants to be first, where everybody wants to break a story, where everybody wants to be relevant, where everybody's searching for their, their space in a crowded area, like a insider. That's the phrase I was looking for. And that's a very crowded space. Only respect is shown to an elite few, and Jordan Schultz is trying to insert himself into that group, which is why he decided to put hands on Ian Rappaport at a Starbucks. Because he wants into an elite fraternity. And if information gets to those guys, they're putting the shit out. I don't blame them. It's bullshit, but I don't blame them. You do what you got to do. But just understand, this information ain't coming from our side. So it's game over for Brian Robinson Jr. Game over. B, Rob, B, game over. B, Rob, game over for B, Rob. He's played his last snap as the Washington Commander. It's unfortunate. But you got to also understand that this is a very, very analytical franchise now. We went from probably being the least analytical. Analytics to us just 3 years ago was Ron Rivera saying that when we're at home in a tie ball game at the end with no time left or little time left, or down one, you go for 2 in the win. Or you go for the tie, excuse me. At home, you go for the tie. On the road, down 1, late in the game, you go for 2 in the win. That was analytics to him, right? Which is total bullshit, because when he did it the first time and it didn't work, he bitched up the next time on the road against Philadelphia. Mind you, we had a short week against the Chicago Bears on Thursday Night Football in 4 days, which you should have gone for 2 in the win. He kicked the extra point because it didn't work in his first season against the Giants when we went for 2 and didn't get it and lost the game 20-19. So he bitched up. So his analytics didn't work one time, which is not how you use analytics. If the numbers say you go for it in this situation, you go for it. That's how analytics work. Now, again, you can take a lot of things into consideration. There are factors. We weren't better than the Eagles that year. And they were on the ropes, and we just went down the field. You should have gone for 2. That was the exact moment where you use those analytics to tell you that not only is this the right time to go for it, but you also have a game in 4 days, and teams that play overtime games prior to a Thursday night game, which is real analytics, by the way, tell you that those teams struggle on Thursday night with a quick turnaround. You do not need to play more football here. Either you win the game right now or you lose the game, because if you choose to go to overtime and you still lose this game, you're probably going to turn 1 loss into 2 because you're not going to play well on Thursday night. That's how analytics work. Real analytics, which he did not have. This group uses real analytics. And Brian Robinson Jr. is an analytics. There are players that are analytics darlings. He is an analytics disaster, is Brian Robinson Jr. Okay. He does not fit any of our nice, pretty, neat analytics that say, hey, this is a guy that you can use in this situation and he's going to be excellent for you. There's not many of those where you feel great about Brian Robinson Jr. to the point where you don't feel like somebody else on the roster can give you exactly what he's giving you or something better. So anyway, I digress. Hey, let me take this opportunity. This will probably be the last time we talk about it until it actually happens. But let me just pour a little bit out for B-Rob, man. We had a little run, bro. It was nice while it lasted. Pour a little bit out for my homie B-Rob's career here in Washington. You'll always be family, bro. You'll always be family. Last thing here, and then we got last thing I gotta tell y'all, and then we gonna move on. Something funny happened in the group chat. Rio probably told y'all this on his channel if he's already going live. But somebody DM'd Rio. And we were, they were going off in the group chat. It was funny. because we got the whole Ed situation. And I tweeted, I texted them, Ed, this is all your fault. This is all Ed's fault. None of this shit would have happened. This all started with B-Rob not looking through Ed's soul, look through Ed's entire being and stared to the core of this man's soul and denied this man an autograph for his kids. and Ed went on a crusade, reached out to all his contacts over at the Defenders, and he made some things happen. And look what's going down now. But Rio said somebody DM'd him and said, Ed won the war. Not Ed won the war. B-Rob won that battle, but Ed won the war. Hey, touche to whoever sent that DM to Rio, man. You guys are undamn defeated is what you are. Ed won the war. So with that said, I digress. Let's get to what I'm looking for, but as a collective, what we should be looking for. And you can add anything you like to this list. I'm probably not going to nail everything because I'm not looking to write down each and every single thing. I'm looking for everything, basically. But these are some of the things that I am looking for specifically in this game because this is our dress rehearsal. For all intents and purposes, this is the one and only time that we're going to see the starters in the preseason. And it is hold on one second, y'all. All right. So there are things that I'm excited to see. We're definitely going to talk about this defense here in a second, but obviously the offense is pretty significant and they're going to be on the field tonight. And there aren't many times that as a fan, I want the team to win the toss and take the football. The preseason is one of the few times that I actually want that to take place, right? So I want to see this offense early. I want them to go out, execute, and then I want to see them come off the field, right? So the first thing I'm going to be looking at is the offensive line, without question. It's a patchwork group. It's not the group that we expect to see week one. We know we're not going to see this group week one. I expect Brandon Coleman to be back week one. I expect Laramie Tunsil to be out there week one, neither of which will be out there tonight. And I'm still holding out hope. You know what I'm about to say. All in for week one, Sam Cosmi, although I think he'll be out until week 3. I've already declared that he is going to be pulled off of the PUP list, just like Terry McLaurin was, off that PUP list before the season starts. But if they thought he could play for week one, they probably would have done the same thing they just did with Terry and pulled him off the PUP list so he can start working out and get himself prepared to be ready for week one. I don't anticipate that happening, but I do anticipate him being off the PUP list to start the season. And week 3 is what I'm targeting, right? Against the Raiders. That said, I want to see what this patchwork offensive line looks like. Clearly, they're going to be in front of Jaden. That's a big effing deal, right? Because if you're going to have Jaden and the first team offense out there with limited weaponry, you don't have your star left tackle, you don't have his go-to tight end, you don't have your number 1 wide receiver, you don't have your number 3 wide receiver. He's limited in what you should be able to do, theoretically speaking. You're not game planning for Cincinnati. So it's not an ideal situation. This offensive line has to step up. I think you're going to see a lot of quick passes. I think you're going to see the ball coming out of his hands quickly, quite a bit in this game. In addition to, I think you're going to see quite a bit of the run game, a lot of screens, right? A lot of slants, quick outs, hitches, because it's a vanilla scheme, right? If you look at what Cincinnati did against Philadelphia, they didn't do anything special, right? It's a lot of hitches, slants, outs. It was everything quick out of Joe Burrow's hands because they don't have a great offensive line either, do the Bengals. So you don't want to put him in a compromising situation. And I think the same thing can be said for this offensive line with what we're going to be putting out on the field, because this is what I think ultimately. I think you're going to see an offensive line that features Andrew Wiley at left tackle, which is going to allow the rookie Josh Connolly Jr. to make his first career start. Again, it's not, an actual start, right? But it's a start in the preseason nonetheless, right? But I think you're going to see him start because last week he was out there, but he was out there with the second unit. So he's going to start this game with the ones because I think ultimately that's what they want to do week one is have him start at right tackle. So this is a great opportunity for him to do that, see how he does. This will be a determining factor whether he's ready or not. If he struggles in this game, then they may say, you know what, he's not ready yet. Maybe we do the whole platooning thing like we did with Andrew Wiley last year, with Brandon Coleman and Cornelius Lucas, or maybe we just don't play him altogether just yet and continue to get him ready. I don't see them doing that. They're going to put him on the field in some capacity to get him the reps he needs until they can fully turn him loose. So we could see a platoon situation, but ultimately this is going to be a dress rehearsal for him. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do with this opportunity. Josh Connolly Jr. I'm referring to. Wiley at left tackle is not something I'm looking forward to. I don't want to see this again after this. I want this to be the one and only time we see him at left tackle. I don't know who the hell is going to be playing left guard. My guess is Chris Paul, which, again, I don't ever want to see Chris Paul in the starting lineup. That is not something that is favorable. And I think if all things go the way that they're supposed to go, this will be the only time we'll ever see Chris Paul in this role because, I mean, think about all the things that have to happen in order for Chris Paul or someone not named Nick Allegretti or Andrew Wiley to be playing guard for us. Think of all the things that have to happen. If Coleman is out there and Cosme is out there, then and Josh Connolly Jr. starting at right tackle, then both Wiley and Nick Allegretti are both available to play guard. So you'd have to go through both of them, in one way, shape, or form. In one way or another, both of them would have to be already on the field to not be able to play left guard, right? Or guard for that matter at any one of the spots. So I think we're going to see Chris Paul tonight, which is not ideal, but the offensive line will be the first thing I'm looking at. We got to protect 5. And Cliff knows what he's got going on, and they're going to get it out of his hands quickly. They're going to run the football. That's the next thing that I'm looking at before we get to the obvious elephant in the room on offense, which is Jaden and Debo and that connection, which has been fantastic. We got to be able to run the ball tonight. And we're going to be taking a look at our new RB1. That's right. Bill is our new RB1. And I think John Keim had a tweet earlier today. Once the news came out that B-Rob was not going to be active, which was first broken by Mike Garafolo of NFL Network. Once that news came out, because JP Finley had been tweeting about it all day, basically saying if B-Rob doesn't play, he's good as gone. He's done here, which we all knew, right? But Bill, it's actually happening. Like, these are things we talked about. A lot of us, I'm guilty, it's charged. I'm not going to sit here and act like I predicted that B-Rob wouldn't be the week 1 starter. I said, Bill's going to start at some point this season. But I was thinking like week 9, week 10, week 11. That's what the kind of shit I was talking about. And some people's like, nah, F that. He's better than B-Rob right now. Put his ass in right now. And I'm like, nah, that's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. Clearly, that's how this shit works. That's how all of this shit works. So we're going to see Jacory Crosby-Merritt, as John Keim said, the plan was always for Bill and Chris Rodriguez to see a ton of snaps tonight. We barely saw Chris Rodriguez last week. So they intentionally set this up. They've probably been shopping B-Rob's ass for quite a while now, because if you look at how they set it up last week, we didn't really see any of Chris Rodriguez. If you think about it, it was a lot of Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. There was a smattering of just a little sprinkle of C-Rod, a little sprinkle of J-Mac, right? We saw a lot of different backs. We didn't see a ton of just C-Rod or anybody like that. So in my mind, you're going to see a ton of those two. I think you're going to see Bill with the starters and maybe a little bit longer. Maybe some of those guys come out, Bill stays in a little bit longer. And then it's going to be the Chris Rodriguez show and whoever else they decide to showcase at that point. But I'm dying to see what the running backs look like, because we got to take some of the pressure off of Jaden, especially with the offensive line not being great, especially with not having Terry and not having Noah Brown. You really don't want to have him have to drop back on 3rd and 8 and move the sticks with no Zach Ertz. Like, it's a lot of things that could complicate matters tonight. And so getting 5 yards on first down on a run, it would be nice. Throwing it on first down, getting 3 or 4 yards on a quick out, which is what we're going to do, and then being able to turn around and hand it off and get 4 more on second down and bringing up 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 would be nice. What's not going to be good is handing it off on first down like we did last week and having instant penetration and having 2 guys in the backfield and having to fight just to get back to the line of scrimmage and have it not be a 1 or 2 yard loss. And now it's 2nd and 10, right? Or getting 4 yards on first down and immediately having penetration in the backfield, 2 yard loss, and now it's 3rd and 8. That's what we need to avoid tonight, because we don't have the guys out there that suggest that we should be able to convert with ease on 3rd down, right? In those types of situations. So let's hope that ultimately they're able to run the football, which we'll be looking at. Our number 1 running back is going to be out there. Our new RB1, Bill, is going to be out there. So that's pretty significant. And then, as I mentioned, the biggest thing that most of us will be looking for in this game is the Jaden Daniels. First of all, all eyes are always on 5 at all times. He's on the field, we're locked in, right? But every practice, we're hearing about this Jaden Daniels, Deebo Samuel connection that strengthens by the day, because there's no Terry McLaurin and no Noah Brown. And so there's really no other receivers to truly get the football to. So that kind of forced their relationship to grow. And it's been very prosperous to this point. Every day we're hearing about a new Deebo Samuel touchdown from Jaden Daniels. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what that actually looks like. We've never actually laid eyes on it unless you've gone out to a practice at Ashburn. You've never truly seen what it looks like. So we're going to get an opportunity to see what that looks like. I'm excited to see what that looks like, right? So you really want to see what that connection looks like. And it's going to be imperative that connection succeeds in this particular game, because who else is Jaden throwing the ball to? Again, no Terry, no Noah, no Zach Ertz, which leads me to my next thing that I'm looking for. Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey early in this ball game. Y'all got to step up. Literally, not figuratively, literally, y'all got to step up. Who else is there? Right? Yep, Jaden can throw it to Austin Eckler out of the backfield. He can throw it to Bill out of the backfield. But y'all got to step up. You know who else is going to get a great opportunity tonight? I don't think enough people are talking about this. Ben Mother effing Sinnott. There's no Zach Ertz tonight. Ben Sinnott is going to get a really big opportunity to shine with the number 1 offense. Now, again, we'll see what the game plan is, how they choose to attack Cincinnati's defense, but ultimately, we know Jaden loves looking for the tight ends, specifically Zach Ertz. Well, Ben Sinnott's going to be running those Zach Ertz routes. Just because Ertz isn't in the game doesn't mean Jaden's not going to still look for the tight end over the middle of the football field. If Ben Sinnott is worth his weight as a 2nd-round draft pick, now's the time to show it. because Jaden's going to be looking for him. Again, who else is there out there other than Debo to throw the football to? We're hoping Jalen Lane looks good. We're hoping that Luke McCaffrey shows a little something tonight. But my money's on Ben Sinnott taking advantage of this opportunity because he's a really good athlete and he can catch the football. And I think he can play. Well, here's your opportunity. This is the best opportunity you're going to get because as long as Zach Ertz is healthy, you're never going to get this opportunity again. And I'm not looking for you to get this opportunity, by the way. I want Ertz healthy because he's so dynamic as a route runner. His hands are incredible. I know I can trust Zach Ertz on third and whatever, fourth and whatever. He's as reliable as it gets on this team. That was not an easy catch against the Falcons to send us to the playoffs in overtime. That's as hard of a catch as it gets. And he snagged that shit with his hands like it was nothing and corralled it and hit the ground and didn't let the football hit the ground. I know I can trust Zach Ertz. No matter the situation, I can trust him. Unless it's 4th and 8 and he's coming back to the football and he takes a knee and he catches it slightly before the first down sticks, then I don't trust him. But even then, we got hosed and screwed. That's another conversation for another day. Ben Sinnott is a guy that I'm also going to be watching very closely in this game, along with Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey. What can Luke do for you? Is Jalen going to be in the fast lane? I'd love to see a shot taken tonight. Maybe 2. I'm interested. What do you guys got? So I'm watching the Debo Jaden connection. I want to see if Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane can step up in the absence of Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown and Zach Ertz. There are more opportunities for those guys with the other 3 top targets out of this ball game. And then Ben Sinnott clearly getting an opportunity to run with the ones. Maybe it'll be Bates that they give those opportunities to. I hope it's Ben Sinnott, but it might be Bates that they say, no. Bates is stepping in the Zach Ertz role. I don't need to see that. I told you, I treat John Bates like all-time quarterback. You stay at the number 2 tight end spot all time. No matter what happens at 1, you don't move. You stay at 2, right? Unless something happens to 1 and 3, then you have no choice but to then be the de facto 1. But if 1 and 3 exist, you stay right at 2. You stay blocking. We'll throw you the occasional, oh shit, they're not checking John Bates football. But I need you to stay right there as TE2 and continue to thrive at that and let Ben Sinnott get this number 1 work, right? This TE1 work. So then we shift our attention to the defensive side of the football. And the first thing that I'm looking for on the defensive side is the defensive line. We've heard so much about this D-line. And when you look at all the guys that are out of this game, the vast majority of the guys not playing are offensive guys. The only 2 defensive guys that really make a true difference that aren't playing in this game are Bobby Wagner and Von Miller. Outside of those 2, which, again, Bobby Wagner is a pretty big effing deal. I mean, we don't have another guy that can play the middle linebacker position. That's why Jordan McGee being out sucks, because this would have been a great opportunity for him to take the reins and show what he can do as the signal caller and the man in the middle. But I digress. Javon Kinlaw is going to be out there. Dorrance Armstrong is going to still be out there. Deron Payne's still going to be out there. All of the other guys, Jacob Martin's still going to be out there. All the other guys that we've heard so much about this camp that have played so well that we're going to be relying on this year are going to be out there. But specifically, I want to see Dorrance Armstrong and Javon Kinlaw probably more so than any other defender, because they've talked about how strong of a camp Javon Kinlaw has had, how he's blown up plays single-handedly, how he's been such a disruptive force in the middle. This is an opportunity for him to show exactly what they've been talking about all summer long. Similar to the Jaden Debo connection being this consistent thing that we heard about just about every day, Javon Kinlaw has been a consistent disruptor that we've heard about just about every day. I want to see that, transfer over to the field in this Monday night contest to give me the confidence to feel like, this D-line is going to be a problem this year. along with Payne. DA is another guy I'm going to be keeping an eye on because I want to see them move him around. And maybe they don't show their hand. Maybe they don't show him moving around in this game. But why not? I mean, what are we here hiding? Like, I want to see DA get active. I want to see him be busy. I want to see this D-line be a problem for Joe Burrow. He's going to try to get it out of his hands early. I'd love to see us get us a hand on a ball or two, tip it in the air, maybe pick it off. But you know the ball's coming out quick. Can we be disruptive? Can we make Joe uncomfortable back there? Can we get him off of his spot? Because the secondary is going to struggle a little bit, which we'll get to here in a second. Like, it's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and they have some good tight ends too. Like, this secondary is going to be tested, and they're going to struggle at times. I don't expect them to get their asses whooped in this game. But it's going to be give and take. They're going to give up some things. They're going to make some plays. If the D-line can insert themselves into the equation, it could be what tips the scales in our favor, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing this D-line and what they are all about, because we've heard so much, and especially stopping the run. I don't expect Cincinnati to try to run it a whole hell of a lot. But when they do, I want them getting nada. I'm going to turn into B. Mitch for this particular game, or Doc, excuse me. I'm going to turn into Doc Walker for this game. When he used to call the preseason games and we would give up 2 yards on the ground, that's too much. We give up a 3-yard gain, that's too much. That's too many yards given up on the ground. All right, I'm going to turn into Doc Walker this game. They get a 3-yard gain off, that's too much. I don't give a shit. That's too much. Their run game ain't like that. And I want to see this perimeter shit cleaned up. If I'm Cincinnati, I'm testing the hell out of this Commanders defense, their perimeter. Tosses, sweeps, outside zone, all of that shit. I'm testing the hell out of your perimeter to see if you can set a physical edge, if y'all can fill the alley, if y'all can force runs and flush runs back inside. Because if not, I'm gonna keep pushing and pushing. I'm gonna keep kicking your ass out on the edge. Will your cornerbacks and safeties spill runs back inside? Because more likely than not, the backers ain't getting out there to make no damn plays. It's going to be the edge rushers, it's going to be the corners, and the safeties that's going to have to fill and force everything back inside. And if they can't, or push the guys out of bounds, set up a wall where there's nowhere to go, it'll be just like last week against New England. And like it was all last year against every team we played against that used the perimeter to their advantage. Definitely looking for this D-line to step up. DA and Kinlaw in particular are guys that I'm going to be watching. It'd be nice if Daron Payne said, hey, don't forget about me. Clearly, the secondary is going to get its biggest test. I don't know if I expect anything from this linebacker core in this game. I'll be keeping an eye on Duke Riley. I think he has a legitimate shot to make this roster. And I think he's going to play quite a bit tonight. And they're expecting him to play way better than we saw from Dom Hampton last week. Also, I'm going to be looking for the youngins, right? I've already talked about Bill. We know he's new RB1. So all eyes will be on Bill, of course. And they were on him anyway, whether he was RB1, 2, or 3. They were going to be on him anyway. And I already talked about our first-round pick. I'm about to talk about our second-round pick, and I already talked about our fourth-round pick. And I'm going to talk about the fourth-round pick, Jalen Lane, again in a second. But Kane Medrano on defense. I saw flashes last week. I want to see some more this week. I'll be definitely keeping a very watchful eye on him as well. So let's get to the secondary. I prayed for times like this. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. I prayed for this. Remember, 2 weeks before the Bengals even announced, 2 nights, before the Bengals announced that they were going to take the preseason serious and have a different approach to the preseason. The 2 nights before, I sat there and I said, man, I beg, I plead that the Bengals play their starters in the second preseason game. Give us an extensive look with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins and company. Please let us see what this defense is truly about. We need to work. Iron sharpens iron. And you ain't going to get any stronger iron from a pass game perspective than the one we will face tonight. We will not see a better trio all season than the one we facing tonight. If we can play good football, and again, they're not game planning for us and we're not game planning for them. This is simple day one install shit that they're going to run tonight, and we're going to be running probably simple day one install shit defensively. Your best against our best. Let's just see who wins, right? This is the test we are looking for right here. This is the test. This is what we wanted. This is what I want. I can't speak for y'all. This is what I wanted. I want to know what we about. I don't want to go into the season with these false ideas of what this defense is, these ideas of grandeur. Nah. I want you to goddamn cut my damn wrist right now and let me bleed out in the preseason if this shit is going to be a disaster. Let me know right now so I can set reasonable expectations for this season and let them exceed my expectations. Not let me set the bar extremely high and watch them fail to even come remotely close to hitting it, because that's how you get disappointed. So if they show me that they about that life, they like that, I'm setting the bar high. I'm setting the shit extremely high. But if they get their asses cooked like the Eagles backups did last week, and Joe Burrow makes this shit look like an exhibition and walks it up and down the field twice or even 3 times, and we give up 3 touchdowns in the first 3 possessions, and the shit is bing, bang, boom, oh, okay. You can tell me whatever you want after the game. We didn't game plan for them, all that. I don't want to hear the shit, because we want to play man any goddamn way. That's what we want to do. D-line ain't getting no pressure, and Joe is back there comfortable building a house and surgically picking our ass apart. It might be a long season. And I might have been wrong about this secondary. Again, you can't make blanket statements from one preseason game, but this is going to tell us a lot. It'll tell us a lot. We might be able to shut down some of the lesser offenses that we see, but if we see an elite quarterback that has weapons, we could be in trouble. That's what this game could tell us. We've seen this defense perform really well against lesser opponents. No need to look any further than last year. When it was a lesser opponent, lesser quarterback, lesser offense, we dominated 8 times out of 10. It's when we saw those upper echelon quarterbacks with targets to get the football to, that's when we struggled collectively as a defense. I think this defense is better. I think we're going to see that tonight. And I'm expecting this secondary to be tested. And they're going to give some stuff up. And they're not going to be clean all night. They're going to give up some plays. They may give up a big touchdown. They may give up a 12-play drive that ends in a touchdown run, or 2-yard touchdown run, or a 8-yard touchdown throw to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Look, it's football. They get paid too, and they're really good on that side. But I expect our guys to make their fair share of plays too. And if they don't, I'll be disappointed tonight. So we'll be watching that secondary. Mikey, I'm looking at Mikey and I'm saying, what you got, bro? We're going to be all over Trey Amos and watching him do whatever he does, whether it's against T. Higgins or it's Jamar Chase. All eyes on 23. I might actually have to go back and watch the all 22s on this one. Even if he's not getting targeted, I just need to see what my boy's out here doing. This might be one I might have to pull out the all 22s for everybody to see. We may have to do that. And then Lattimore, what you got, bro? You finally healthy? You've had a really strong camp to this point. I'm ready to see what it looks like. Will Harris. We ain't seen Will Harris we ain't seen him all summer. We ain't really heard about Will Harris all summer. This is our first opportunity to see Will Harris running around on the field and what this looks like. I'm pretty anxious. We know what Quan is. We're hoping Quan takes that massive leap forward in year 3. But what is Will Harris in this defense? We're going to find out. So this is the secondary's biggest test. That's what we're going to be looking for. A lot of individual matchups, but a lot of that secondary playing cohesive as one, whether that's man coverage, some form of zone. I just want to see what this secondary looks like. They're going to get tested tonight. And then lastly, special teams. Let's start with Matt Gay. He wasn't disastrous last week. For the most part, he did his job. He didn't kick a bunch of touchbacks. He forced teams to return the football. He kicked it in the landing zone. He did his job from that perspective for the most part last week. It was a disaster, defending these kicks. We'll talk about that here in a second. But he did miss his first kick last week. His first kick as a Commander, which left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. That was not the start that you were looking for. You can't give up a 100-yard kickoff return and then turn around and miss your first field goal from 49 yards out. It just didn't go well last week from that perspective. But he made a chip shot last week. Maybe that got his confidence back where it needed to be. He had a strong week of practice this week. We talked about that on Training Camp Confidential. So now we need to see that manifest itself on the field tonight. If he is put out on the field in any situation, I don't give a shit if it's 54, 44, or 34. I don't need any misses tonight. Extra points need to be good. Field goals need to be good. I just need Matt Gay I need him to put us at ease. Fans are still a little edgy right now as to whether or not we're going to get our money's worth. He got the single biggest guaranteed one-year deal of any place kicker in NFL history. We need to get a return on this investment. As fans, we're looking for a return on this investment. That needs to start tonight. If you're put in the game to have to kick. We would prefer touchdowns, not field goals. We would prefer you to kick a bunch of extra points tonight. But overall, he needs to be better, right? And then special teams kick coverage. I think this goes without saying. That wasn't us last week. That's not who we are. I don't know who that team was, right? I don't know who that squad was, because this is the thing. Normally in the preseason, your starters on special teams aren't out there. When you got 32 guys that don't dress, a number of them are key special teamers. That is not the case for this team. All of our key special team pieces were out there last week. Revo was out there last week. Percy Butler was out there last week. Nick Ballore was out there last week. Colson Yankoff was out there last week. All the dudes that we rely on at a high level to play special teams, they were out there. And we got our shit kicked in last week. We got our shit pushed in. Obviously, that can't happen again. I don't expect it to happen again. But you have to mention it after the lackluster and disastrous performance we saw last week. You got to mention our kick coverage has to be better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then the return game. Can we get some stops tonight so we can actually see what Jalen Lane looks like as a punt returner? Can we please get some damn stops? Please. Pretty please. I'll take turnovers first. Obviously, turnovers are always better than an actual stop. So I'll ask for turnovers first, but I don't expect turnovers from this group. We got one last week. I was absolutely ecstatic that we got a turnover, that we produced a turnover last week. That's not my expectation. Just get some stops. Get off the field on third down. Don't give up big returns so that they're in a position to go for it on fourth down or they're in field goal range. I need to see them punt the ball so that our punt returner can actually get reps. That would be really nice. Really want to see what Jalen Lane can provide us from a special team standpoint, because like he may get an opportunity to play tonight at receiver and it'll be nice to see what he can do. But when we're fully healthy, that dude's towards the back of the line, right? Like there may be certain packages where he gets into the game, certain opportunities like Jamison Crowder, for instance, did last year. The last 83 that we had on the team. But make no mistake about it. When it's all said and done, his biggest impact immediately, day one, can be as a punt returner. Can we see what that looks like tonight? Please? So those are the things that I'm looking for from us in this game. Lot of intrigue surrounding this one. I expect us to play a lot better. This is a massive understatement, and this goes without saying. But I expect us to play way better than we did last week. Of course, I'm not saying anything that you don't already know, but I don't feel like I should have to say this anymore. I really don't. And I almost don't even want to say this. But because of what happened last week, I think it's only right that I say this. This is the last time I'm going to say this year, because when you got 5, I don't worry about this type of stuff, taking place. Again, 5 can't control what others around him do. But if you put the ball in 5's hands, he's going to make sure that we don't get our asses bombed atomically. Again, the NFC Championship game, he can't throw it, catch it, run it, and not fumble too, right? Like, he can't control what other guys do with the football. He can only get them the ball. What they do with it afterwards, it's out of his control. But if they do what they're supposed to do, 5 is going to do what he needs to do to make sure that we don't get our asses bombed atomically. I shouldn't have to say this, and I won't say this again this year, because this is an expectation now. But don't embarrass me tonight. It's a preseason game. Everybody's watching. Last week was a disaster. We don't need 2 of them in a row. Don't embarrass me tonight. I don't give a shit what happens. Honestly, I'm going to be 100% abundantly clear about this. I don't give a shit what happens after the starters leave the game. As long as everybody stays healthy, I don't give a shit. If the game is competitive while the starters are in, that's all I care about. They could give up 80 points once the 2s and 3s for each team come in. Fine. I don't give a shit. Once I can definitively say when my starters are out there, we looked the part. Last week was a mess, but the standard that we set wasn't upheld. If the starters go out there, set the tone and the template for how things are supposed to go, and the second team and third team don't handle that, a lot of those guys ain't going to be here anyway. That's why I ain't tripping. The problem with last week is a lot of the guys that we saw on the field are guys that are going to be here, that are going to be contributors. They were out there in some way, shape, or form when shit was going off the rails. Special teams and defense. Like, those first couple of possessions with Drake May on the field, you force the fumble, then he comes back and he goes down the field and scores a touchdown. Those guys that were on the field, the Eddie Goldmans and the Jacob Martins, they were still on the field. Noah Igbenogany, even though he did his job, they were still on the field. We thought Dom Hampton was going to be around. He was on the field. Kay Madrano was on the field. He's going to be around. Cleveland Farrell was out there. He's going to be around. Like, those guys were still on the field, and we were still getting, gashed in the run game and giving up shit. So this week, it'll be a little bit different. Even if they don't play well in that second half, whenever the starters come out, just take care of business. Starters take care of business. Look professional. I know I don't have to say that, but take care of business. Don't embarrass us. Anyway, I digress. So that is it. That's all I got for you. Let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say, and then we will get out of here. C. Jackson, 1717. My guy, CJ Shoots photo. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, okay, CJ was wrong about B-Rob is going, gone. HTTC. Look, you're not alone. I was wrong too. Right? And I'm going to have to offer up a double O to Ben Standig at some point, which is going to hurt my soul. But I'm going to wait until B-Rob is officially gone before I do it, because I'm dreading it. I'm dragging my feet, kicking and screaming like a little 3-year-old. But I got to do it, because I gave him flack. I dismissed him when he said that, and I was like, Ben Standig over here tripping. And then I brought Candy on to pile on him and double down on my bullshit, and Ben Standig was right. So I got to show some love. I said yesterday that I thought it was a 70-75% chance that B-Rob was still on his roster. But I also told y'all, when that information gets out to the masses, that's a sign that they're willing to release him. I mean, I told y'all, it's just like asking a player to take a pay cut. When you go to a player and ask him to take a pay cut, you're essentially willing, you're asking him to do that with the intent of him hopefully agreeing to a pay cut, because you are willing to then cut said player if he does not agree to a pay cut. And by them essentially shopping B-Rob, and then this, and again, they did not do this. This was not their doing. But that information being put out to the masses, it essentially kills any shot of him being back on his roster. So that's crazy. JD5, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JD5 writes, Jahan better than Terry. First of all, I know you're trolling, and I shouldn't even give this comment 2 seconds, but I'll just say this and we just move on. If Jahan's better than Terry, then why'd they just trade for John Mechie? JLG993, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, what it do? It's good, JLG. The JCM era is here. Celebrate! Bill is here. The book of Bill begins tonight. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Bill Mania has reached a crescendo. You let your shit bubble quiet and then you blow. We about to see Bill blow. I'm excited. I'm excited. You said something yesterday that made me question JCM's durability. Do you think he's ready to carry the 17-game load? Only one way to find out. Again, I don't think durability is an issue for this kid. I just brought it up because he hadn't played football in so long. He hadn't actually had real physical contact. And I think that's kind of what his body kind of had to readjust to. Think about it. They don't take you to the ground in practice. He was on the scout team at Arizona last year. He hasn't really had real physical contact. The East-West Shrine game was the last time he actually got taken to the ground and tackled. But that was an all-star game. That wasn't a real game. So this man, for all intents and purposes, hasn't been in a real professional tackle football setting in almost 2 years. Okay, that's a bit much. A full year, basically, because he played in the first game last year at the end of August for Arizona. So it's almost been a full year since he's endured real contact. That's a long time. So you shouldn't question his durability, but that's something you say, hey, his body has to adjust. Clearly, last week was a shock to his body a little bit. He should be fine. He should be fine. Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Malachi Malik writes, Welp, that Lionel Willingham rant didn't age well. Yikes. Most of what Lionel Willingham says doesn't age well. Just keeping it a bean, right? Just keeping it a buck with you. Again, he says a lot of shit for effect. He may believe it, but a lot of this shit is crazy that he says out of his mouth. So, again, I, however, agreed with some of the things that he said. He made too many, like, definitive statements about B-Rob, though, that I was like, nah, I'm not buying that. Like, he was trying to, and he's one of those dudes that in order to lift up his argument, he's got to shit on somebody else, which I try not to do. I don't agree with that. Like, you don't have to shit on somebody to lift somebody else up. You know, sometimes it helps your argument to do that, right? I do it when it comes to guys that I try to dismiss. Like, for instance, you know, in order to elevate a guy like Daron Payne or some of the depth on this roster, I may say, we had to play Carl Davis over 60% of the snaps in the NFC Championship game. Like, that's when I'll do that, right? But ultimately, he was trying to shit on Bill. Like, this 7th round pick, this guy isn't all that. He's not better than B-Rob. I'm like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Okay. First of all, He is better than B-Rob. Second of all, that kid can ball. Third of all, you've been out here talking about if he keeps running like this, he's going to make the roster. What the hell are you talking about, bro? This man, the day he got drafted, this man was on the roster. What are you talking about if he makes the roster? He's going to start at some point this year. What are you talking about? I didn't know it was going to be week 1. I didn't know it was going to be week 2 of the preseason. I didn't know he's going to be RB1 in August. So much for the depth charts in August. This man is the 5th running back on the depth chart. This man is starting the game with the ones tonight, more likely than not. Maybe X starts the game. Who knows? But yeah, so much for that. Lionel's rant didn't age well. It aged like milk. Yikes is right, Malachi. No, Philip. Mariota is not playing tonight. No. Marcus B, 7307. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Marcus writes, you think AP waves could hurt the team at some point? I mean, it could, possibly. It could hurt us this year with this whole Terry shit. You know, it could hurt us this year because this was avoidable. We didn't need to go through this. We didn't need to go through this. This could hurt us this year. The offense could get off to a slow start. Anything could happen with Terry because he wasn't out there all summer. This could hurt us this year. But ultimately, if you come, those of you who are going to be in attendance at the live event, speaking of which, let me toss this up on the screen real quick. Any of you who are going to be in attendance at the live event, August 24th, day after the final preseason game, Commanders Kings will be live at Crystal City Sports Pub in Arlington, Virginia. Our first time being live, and I'm going to let y'all in on a little something. If y'all in that live event and we chopping it up, I got something for y'all. I got a little bit of intel I'm going to drop on y'all. I know a little something and some things that we had questions about this summer. I got some answers for y'all. I'm not going to say it over the airwaves, but I'm going to tell y'all that in person. So if y'all at the event, y'all going to get some insider information. I got a couple of nuggets for y'all. Some real Liptons. Some real Liptons. So come out to this event. Enjoy yourself and enjoy the Kings and all their splendor. It's going to be so live. It's going to be lit. It's going to be a great time. Bart Scott. Can't wait. Get your tickets. Less than 20 tickets exist. We are winding down. $45. Get you in the building. If you can't be there, though, which we understand, we continue to ask that you support this event and the Kings by donating. We can't thank you enough for your donations. Can't be there physically. You can be there in spirit the same way. And if you're a mod and you're out there, please hit me with the link down in the description of this video, or excuse me, hit me with the link in the comment section of this video. And I can, so that those who want to attend can click that link, get their tickets, but also those who want to donate can click that link, go all the way to the bottom of that screen, and you'll find all of the different options to donate. So with that being said, looking forward to chopping it up with you on the 24th of August. You guys are awesome. Bart Scott. Can't wait. We are so excited, man. We've been talking about that. Me and the fellas have been all week. Like, we're so excited. We can't wait, man. It's going to be awesome. So, yeah, I do think his ways could, hurt the team at times. Ultimately, I think his ways are going to be more beneficial than they will hurt us. I mean, it's just like anything in life. Like, if you're an aggressive person by nature, your aggressiveness may benefit you a ton, and it may ultimately benefit you more than it doesn't, but it's going to hurt you sometimes. That's just the nature of, doing business. It's the nature of your personality being what it is. Like, if you're a timid person that doesn't like to take risks, you're going to be more cautious than you are going to be willing to take risks. that may benefit you sometimes if something goes belly up and everybody wanted to jump in and you were like, hey, I don't think I want to be a part of that. And you played it cautious and it might have saved you money. But at the same time, if that thing were to go through the roof, right, you had a chance to get in on Walmart when it was a cheap stock and then it goes through the roof because you were too cautious and playing it safe. You missed out on that opportunity. It just goes both ways. But ultimately, I think his way of doing things is going to help us more than it's going to hurt us. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Rivera and Mayhew screwed us over with their BS. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that a long time, JP. Like, I'm done with those dudes. We bring them up from time to time when it's pertinent. Like, look, and you're bringing them up because B-Rob and my guy, shout out to my guy Derek B. He brought up, you know, how's Rivera's draft classes looking now? Because he said this a long time ago. Rivera's draft class is going to be non-existent when these guys are done because they sucked. And this is another one of those guys. Remember that 2022 draft class? How influential we all thought it was going to be. Damn, I feel foolish for even being at the forefront of that shit. You know, that's one of those ones where you turn around and look back at it and you're like, man, I got egg all over my face from that one. Because I remember the trade back to then draft Jahan, and we thought he had a chance to be really good. That netted us the opportunity to draft Cole Turner, Sam Howell, and Brian Robinson Jr. And you couldn't tell us shit about that draft in that space and how influential that 2022 draft class was going to be. Even if Ron wasn't here, those guys are going to be players that continue to make that draft class relevant. Now you look back on that draft class, and that draft class is a big steaming pile of shit with B-Rob's exit, you know, impending exit. And that shit is imminent. It's coming, right? Yeah. Rivera and Mayhew definitely screwed us over. Me and Candy talked about that, you know, last week, essentially how, you know, it's just, we always go back to the initial press conference of Adam Peters when he got here and David Aldridge asked him about the state of this roster and what he thought about it. And there was literally a 3 to 5 second pause and a big cheesy ass grin as he tried to compile the most PC answer he could come up with without shitting on the guys that were carryovers from the last regime, because he knew work had to be done. And then he calmly said, you know, there's some guys here that we feel good about that we think are, you know, pieces, but there's a lot of work to do. And he quickly got to work, and he's been working ever since. And you see what this shit is. So, yeah, they screwed us without question. I mean, just look at the Christian Gonzalez. Like, just that one alone, we talked about it because we played the Patriots last week. That one alone is really maddening right now because that had a ripple effect, you know? Hunter Hodovic, thank you for being a member for 40 months. Salute. My guy, Double H, writes, T, what up, Hunter? He says, hope all is well, brother. Likewise. Good to hear from you as always. I'm ready for BCM 32. Hunter, I'm going to tell you like this. It's JCM or it's Bill. Don't combine the two, please. Don't combine the two. Please don't call him Bill Krosky Merritt. You want to drive me insane, and y'all going to do it now because I just told y'all that shit bothers me. Don't call him Bill Krosky Merritt. Please don't do that. Call him JCM or just call him Bill. All right. Anyway, I digress. Trevor Patch, I already know I shouldn't have said that because now y'all going to call him Bill Krosky Merritt just to get under my skin. Just to get under my skin. I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, I digress. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Trev writes, our scheme might not be for a north and south running back, but you need one to pick up that 1 yard you need in critical situations. Example, when we cut Peyton Barber a few years ago, I need to see it. You're not wrong. You know, I was the biggest Peyton Barber, True Lies in my barber fan, right? He was the guy that when Ron first brought him here, I was like, hey, Ron, what you doing, bro? And then when I saw the value of a Peyton Barber in those situations, I was like, yo, he don't miss. And then they got rid of him the next year, and we stunk in those situations. It was a total role reversal, and it was night and day from the year before. And so I'm not saying B-Rob was automatic in those situations, because he wasn't, but he was very good in those situations. But they think they have got, like, I think Bill can be good in those situations. I watched him in a 3rd and 1 situation, jump over a guy that was at his feet in the backfield, get to the outside, and get to the first down marker, which I know for a fact Austin Eckler, B-Rob, and J-Mac would not have done on that play. I know for a fact they don't get that first down. Now, you know, upon contact at the line of scrimmage, driving your feet, you meet a guy in the hole. Can he drive forward and get that yard? B-Rob could. Can he, with a running start? Probably, but B-Rob was definitely a guy that could do that. He was so good down around the 1 yard line, plowing his way into the end zone. Can Bill be that guy? I know Bill can jump over the top. We've seen clips of him doing that in practice. He can get over the top. B-Rob couldn't do that. C-Rod can't do that. C-Rod got pissed off, and instead of jumping over the shit, he ran through the barrier, right? Because he couldn't jump over it. Bill can give you a little bit of both. So I hear what you're saying, but I think Bill could be an asset in those short yardage situations too. It's not always the biggest guy that wins in those situations. Sometimes you need shifty as well. I think he can be a little bit of both. But you're not wrong. And again, it's not like C-Rod's not still going to be here. Right? It's not like C-Rod's not going to still be here. They want to, they can activate him. He'll be on the practice squad. I don't see C-Rod making this roster. I don't think you cut B-Rob to then add a 4th back on this roster. I think you cut B-Rob to get Bill in the game, but to also trim the fat off of the running back position. I talked about this all summer long. You got to trim off fat somewhere. B-Rob is their, way of trimming off some fat at a position where you were staring at potentially 3, maybe 4 backs being kept. Now you just keep 3. Keep it pushing, right? But I get where you're coming from. Trev. Jarrett Fromm, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Jarrett, writes, am I wrong to be a bit pissed at AP? For what? Not saying fire. I mean, I feel like he has done this Terry situation wrong. I know it's a business, but it's also Terry. He has done everything right. Everything. There's nuance to the situation. There's nuance. You have every right to not like how he's handled the Terry situation. You have every right to feel that way. You are entitled to your opinion and your feelings, and they're valid. I want to make sure that you know that your feelings are validated here on the Louie T Network. You have every right to feel frustrated with that situation. Because I don't think, and most fans don't think we should be in this position when it comes to Terry. We shouldn't be having this conversation on August the 18th. We shouldn't be. So you should feel how you feel. But it's one situation, right? Maybe this is a sign of things to come on how he's going to, deal with players. But he's dealt with other players in this organization. He has had no issues, right? He's taken care of a number of guys, took care of John Bates, took care of Jeremy Reeves, took care of Percy Butler, took care of Sam Cosmi. He hasn't had any issues up until this point. This is the first one. This is a unique set of circumstances. Everyone said that. This is a very unique contract situation. You may not see this situation, this exact situation, for another 15 years. It may never happen again where you have a guy who got into the league as late as Terry did, who is in this portion of his career with a quarterback for the first time that he can actually make some real noise with, going into his age 30 season, but still having plenty of football left, and all of these different factors being weighed in, and then looking at the market and where it's going and what he has represented and what he thinks he's going to continue to represent. You may not get another situation. So it's a very, very convoluted situation. It's complex in its nature. And so there are a lot of factors that have to be taken into consideration. Has Adam Peters done everything right on his end? No, I don't think so. But has Terry and his handlers and his group done everything right on their end? No, I don't think so either. And so there's enough blame to go around. There's enough blame to go around. But ultimately, and I've said this, and I'm going to continue to say this until it doesn't come to fruition, I expect something to get done because this is the Adam Peters way. When negotiations get tough, he digs his heels in. He doesn't run. He doesn't hide. He digs his heels in and he stands firm. But eventually, either they compromise or the other side compromises. But either way, the deal gets done. This is the track record from San Francisco. This is what we've seen instances of, playing out here, right? And I think that's going to play itself out here again. Terry's going to get a deal done, whether it's the end of August, early September. Terry's going to get a deal done, and we're going to move on. Hopefully, it all works out for the best, and we can move forward, and this is a non-issue as football begins to commence. But you have every right to feel the way that you feel, but obviously, we're not talking about firing this man. That's not a real conversation. And you said not saying fire, but the fact that you even brought that up, like, that shouldn't even be a thought in your mind, to me, at least. That shouldn't even be something that we're even talking about. This is not a fireable offense. It's one that you can be pissed off about, but he hasn't handled this the best. And again, Terry and his handlers haven't handled this the best. Goes both ways. As long as they find a way, and I think they will ultimately find a way to some sort of resolution, then all's well that ends well. I hate that we had to go through what we had to go through to get here. That sucks. Because it caused a lot of strife. It brought a lot of strangers from the outside into our business. We don't like nobody in our family business. We like to keep our shit tight. And it's a local media, our fans. We keep our shit tight in-house. We don't fraternize with the outsiders. They like to come in here and steal from us, try to knock us down a notch. We try to keep our shit in-house. And this Terry situation let a lot of funny lookings, a lot of strangers into our building. It let a lot of strangers into our affairs. I'm not a big fan of it. And it also caused in-house fighting. It caused a lot of strife amongst the fan base that was unnecessary. It caused a lot of distractions at practice. It caused a lot of imbalance at practice. A lot of unnecessary shit stems from this negotiation that could have been handled a long time ago, I believe, better on both sides. But ultimately, we are where we are. No need in looking back, because that ain't going to change nothing. Can we get this deal done moving forward? And I think they will get it done. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, wasn't we rejoicing for B-Rob in his rookie year? Yeah, we were. First of all, the man got shot in his rookie season. But you got to understand, anytime it's not that different from an election, the presidential election. What often happens as people, right, as Americans, which it can be sometimes frustrating, is that you get 4 to 8 years of one political party and all of their policies and the way they do things, and then people fly off the handle and say, we got to have the extreme, right? We got to go to the other side of the end of the spectrum because we're sick of this shit. So, that's why we rarely see, if it ain't the same person 2 terms in a row, we rarely see, Democrats win 2, separate elections, or 2 Republican presidents back to back, right? Say, because you go for 8 years of this or 4 years of this, and you're like, nah, we got to do the other thing, right? And so it's no different here with the running backs. That's how it's been for us. We were so excited when Antonio Gibson got here. He was the new shining toy. Adrian Peterson was cool, but he old as shit. When they cut him, we was like, hey, okay, fine. Hey, we got the new dude that's supposed to be this Christian McCaffrey type. You heard about him? Yeah. Scott Turner said he like a black Christian McCaffrey. He was a receiver. He can catch it. He 4'3". Yeah, this shit about to go down. And he was actually good in his rookie season. Then he fumbled a bunch in 2021. You remember? He fumbled a bunch. People were sick of his shit. And then if you remember, we draft B-Rob in 2022. The year after, in 2021, Gibby fumbled a bunch. And then he fumbled in the first preseason game, and everybody lost their shit. Hey, put B-Rob in the game now. And then B-Rob had a really good game against, I want to say it was Kansas City in the preseason. And then he gets shot. Changed everything. Then he comes back out to many men, has a really good rookie season. We all said, oh, he would have had 1,000 yards easy if he didn't miss the first 4 games because of getting shot. So we made the excuses. We said he's this, he's that. And yeah, we were lauding and praising him because he was the new toy. He was the new running back. That's what Bill is right now. He's the new shiny object, but there's real talent here. We can see it. But also some of it just stems from fans being excited that he's not B-Rob. He doesn't look anything like him. I literally just went on a rant yesterday. Just a mini rant. It wasn't a big one. But the same fans that were in unison with most of us saying, if we would have had B-Rob against Baltimore in week 6, we would have beat the Ravens, are the same ones saying, get him the hell out of here as fast as you can. Because they didn't like what they saw at the end of last season. That Eagles game was the beginning of the end of B-Rob. When he fumbled in that second Eagles game, twice in that game. We still won that game. People forget. Like, despite the fumbles, we still won the game, but he made it a lot tougher than it needed to be. He did not play well in that game. He lost confidence, I believe, in that game. A lot of fans lost confidence in him in that game. And it kind of snowballed, and the run game deteriorated, and the offensive line's health deteriorated, and it was a lot of factors, but a lot of people just blamed it on B-Rob. It's not like C-Rod came in the game and was lighting it up. Everybody lit it up against Tennessee. B-Rob had his biggest run of the season against Tennessee for a touchdown. Everybody got off on Tennessee. So when Chris Rodriguez comes in the fourth quarter and almost rushes for 100 yards, everybody got their shit off against the Titans in that game. C-Rod ain't do shit against none of the other teams he got. When he played against Atlanta, go look at his numbers. I think he had like 3 carries for 9 yards in that game or some shit like that. One of them was a touchdown run, though, and it was an impressive one. And then he had a catch out of the backfield. He didn't light it up. Everybody keeps acting like when C-Rod got in the game, all of a sudden, 8 and 9 yard runs are coming in bunches. I actually do think Chris Rodriguez is a more natural runner. Like, instinctually, I think he's better than B-Rob. I've said that before. I don't think he's more talented than B-Rob. I don't. I think he's more instinctual as a runner. I think he has better vision. He has better feet. I don't think he's more athletic. I know he's not more athletic than B-Rob. I don't think he's more talented than B-Rob. There's a reason why B-Rob went to Alabama. You don't just show up at Alabama. They don't just bring anybody onto their campus. But when it's all said and done, B-Rob had his opportunities here. I'm not here to sing a sad song for him or tell a sob story, because he had his chances to prove that he was someone that they needed to have here, and he just didn't do it. And in comes Bill, and who doesn't want to see Bill touch the rock? You're not going to find many hands out there. There's some, but there are not many who don't want to see Bill touch the rock. So, Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. who writes, tell Ed to stop smiling. He can't. And you know what's funny is I said this is all Ed's fault. And Ed said, but I actually wanted him to stay. You know, dudes be feeling bad when some shit like this happen and you know they feel like they had something to do with it. Like, you know, I don't have any beef with Carl Davis, but everybody thinks I can't stand Carl Davis. I don't have any beef with Carl Davis. I just use him as an example about a lot of stuff. I do have beef with Michael Dieter. I've made that abundantly clear. I'm not a Chris Moore fan, right? So, but I don't have any beef with Carl Davis. If he makes this team, I'm going to be happy because they value him. He serves a purpose as a run stuffer in the middle of this defense. So I don't have any issues with that. But Ed wanted to see the version of B-Rob that we get at the beginning of the season, not the one that we usually get at the end of seasons. And but Ed was definitely hot about the whole, you know, autograph thing. And so I'd be lying to you if I told you Ed probably doesn't have a shit-eating grin on his face right now. Right? That we've seen Ed's smile is as big as it gets. Ed's smile when he lights it up, that shit looks like the Grinch. Yeah, his shit is definitely from ear to ear right now, for sure. Uncle App, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Mr. Brown. What can Brown do for you? Writes, what up, Lou? It's Bill season. It's Bill season. The book of Bill begins tonight. Chapter 1. The preseason start with the ones. Let's see what he does. The book of Bill begins tonight. I love it. Haval, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Haval writes, man, I remember that locker room reveal vid where the Cam pinned the B-Rob like 2 or 3 times, and bro was like, it's about damn time. And now he gone. Oh, no, you are so right about that. They spent, on a 3-minute video, they spent about 50 seconds to about a minute 15. Nah, okay. They spend about 30 to 50 seconds on B-Rob. That would be the equivalent of them moving on from Tress Way. They spent like a full minute with Tress Way, like, man, this is nice. He pulled out the little cushion. And he's like, you know what? The real question is, are both of these cup holders mine and all that? Like, it would be crazy if they cut him after that, right? They literally put B-Rob front and center on that locker room reveal. You're not wrong, bro. They did it with him because he was one of the longer tenured commanders. They tried to do it with guys that had been here, that had, you know, been in the locker room in its past state. But that's crazy that you bring that up, Haval. I forgot all about that. That's wild. Oh man, you're not wrong. That's crazy. CM Man 98. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I trust AP, but a few concerns. Kinlaw, big overpay. You don't know that. You don't know that that's an overpay. We're gonna find out. And I said this. I said a lot of people may have to eat crow. And there may be a lot of people that owe AP a double O if Kinlaw turns out to be what they envisioned him being. Now, again, everyone that said it was an overpay might be right. But that was the original sentiment. When it first happened, a lot of people said, y'all just overpaid for a dude that wasn't going to get $15 million a year from anybody. You overpaid. We'll see. They might have gotten a steal. He might perform like a $25 million a year defensive tackle. And remember, this is a former first-round pick we're talking about, a top 15 pick at that. So we'll see. Impact pass rusher is 36 limited, albeit can play. Also, secondary address, still big unknown. But still big unknown. So the impact pass rusher is 36. You're not wrong, but we had limited resources, right? I mean, the market for free agents was gone. Like that. The guys that they were interested in, DeMarcus Lawrence, he chose Seattle, right? They were interested in Joey Bosa. I didn't want any parts of him. I'm glad he chose Buffalo, right? And so the market, it dried up quickly. The guys that were available that they were interested in, or the big name guys, all signed deals before we even had a shot at them, right? So they got what they could get. We didn't have a lot of draft picks. We had 5 draft picks. Like, we didn't have a lot of resources. They took the players that were highest on their board. That's what we want them to do. We don't want them going full Rivera on us and reaching for a position of need because that's what we need. They did the right thing. So your concerns are valid up until they're not. Kinlaw might have been a big overpay. Only one way to find out. It starts tonight. We get to lay eyes on him tonight. Let's see, right? Starts tonight, and the evaluation will take place throughout the entire season and even next season because he'll be here at least 2 years, right? Impact pass rusher is 36 years old. Let's see what he does. How do we know that Von Miller doesn't turn the clock back and be Dante Fowler Jr. for us? We didn't expect Dante Fowler Jr. to be a double-digit sack getter last year. We don't know. He might actually be an impact pass rusher for us. But collectively as a group, if he goes out and gets 6, and Jacob Martin goes out and sets a career high and gets 5.5, 6, and Dorrance does what I think he can do and have 9, 10, 11, and Frankie does what he usually does and gets 8, 9, or 10, and Deron Payne messes around and gets 5 or 6, and you look up and we got 55 sacks as a team, which is good for 6th in the league, what then? Like, this defense isn't built for one dude to feast. It's built for a bunch of guys collectively to do damage. So let's see if that happens or not, right? And yes, the secondary is still a big unknown, specifically the safety position. Even though DQ says he thinks it's a strength, we don't know what Will Harris is going to be. There are a lot of people that think they messed up by not re-signing Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin just had an interception for the Raiders. A lot of people are going to bring that up, especially if Will Harris looks like ass tonight. Again, this preseason game is going to tell us some things. It won't tell us everything. They're not game planning. You know, it's the first game. It's a really good opponent. We may look like ass on defense tonight and turn out to be really good defensively this season. We don't know. But your concerns are valid. We'll see if Kinlaw is legit. We'll see if Von Miller pans out. And we'll see if this secondary is better or not. Like the key phrase you use there is, I trust AP. As long as you continue to trust him, give him an opportunity to show you what he is worth, what he can do. As long as you stick with that mentality, as a fan, it is okay to have concerns. It's okay to have concerns. Let's see if those can be quelled tonight or not. Maybe those concerns grow for you after tonight. Maybe they don't make you feel better about these moves until week 9, 10, 11, where you already had a larger body of work and a larger sample size, and you can go, okay, Von Miller's been really good this year. Javon Kinlaw is legit and still relatively young. And the secondary is the secondary is way better. Even sight unseen, it's way better than it was last year. I don't think I need to explain why. C-Man 98. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up who writes. Also, game 1 showed how bad Ron left this roster depth. Clearly, that's where this is, revealing itself. We talked about that last week. The preseason really shows how strong of a roster you do or don't have, where your depth is. How good is your depth? How deep is your depth? That's what the preseason exposes or confirms. We got exposed last week. But again, we're in year 2 of a recalibration. What did you expect this roster to look like? We had the highest turnover rate of any NFL roster, and it wasn't close last season. Almost 60% of our roster was different. And if you start adding in the guys that they cut during the season, like Emmanuel Forbes, like Fedarian Mathis, like Jamin Davis, it probably pushes over 60%. Adam Peters had his work cut out for him when he got this job. And to your point, Ron and company left this roster in terrible shape. And it's going to take a while, 3, 4 years, for them to get us where we ultimately want to be, stabilized, not only the top end of the roster, which has already been stabilized, but the back end as well. So He says Forbes over Gonzalez, still can't get over that stupid Carvid. None of us can. That's the one that I always point to. Like, these guys were so brainless when it came to talent evaluation and, player personnel. They just were clueless. This is why you can't let some people be in control of personnel decisions. Because if the right people were in charge here, we probably would have taken Christian Darrisaw instead of Jamin Davis. We probably would have taken Christian Gonzalez instead of Emmanuel Forbes. But again, what's done is done. He says, thank God DQ and his staff are here. Amen to that. Amen to that. So that is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me here on this installment of the Command Post. I will be back later on this evening. Obviously, I'm going to be on Bleacher Report as soon as the game meets its conclusion for about 20, 25 minutes. Immediately thereafter, I'm going to jump on and we're going to talk all about this game and all of its splendor. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. We're going to talk about all of it. Going to take vigorous notes as I always do. Report back to you, and we're going to talk about all of it. For some of you, it's a late night. The game starts at probably 8:15. Good thing about preseason games, they run faster, especially in the second half. Both teams usually just want to get the hell out of Dodge. So my hope is that this is not going to be like a traditional Monday night game that ends around 11:15, 11:30, but closer to 11 o'clock, like 10:45, 10:50. That'll allow us to get into this a lot sooner. Usually the second half of these preseason games, they fly by, right? But if it's super competitive and you got two teams trying to win and they're using timeouts and they're throwing the football and the clock stopping, then it could turn into a real game and it could end at 11:15, 11:20, and then so forth and so forth. Either way, a lot of you have to go to work tomorrow, so you won't be able to catch this live stream tonight, which is fine. It'll be here for playback and playback consumption. But anyway, I digress. I look forward to chopping it up with all of you tonight. The ones that can't make it, we will be here and talking about this game in its entirety tonight here on the Command Post Game Show Live. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T. Enjoy the game tonight. You know I will. And we'll come back and we'll talk about all of it. ALL, all of it tonight. Everything stops right here. And the thing that is above all else, health. Let's stay healthy tonight. That's what matters the most. Let's stay healthy tonight. I'll see you guys later on tonight. Have a good one. Peace. Pour some out for our guy B-Rob and his Commander's career. Game over.